Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This episode of SOKy Nostalgia by Deadpan Studio Podcast is going to feature a couple of very cool interviewees, but it's not going to be for the younger listeners. We do have some language in to be quite honest, the episode is just way too long for me to try to edit and cut out all of that cussing. So there wasn't a whole lot, but just so you know, this isn't for children. But if you would like to tell the children about what you listen to, check it out. And with that, I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody, and by the sound of that music, you know that it is time for another awesome episode of SOKy Nostalgia. How's everybody feeling tonight?
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. That's going to be for the listeners. As always.
Those people are dead.
As always, I am your host, the Matt.
Sir Bradley.
Tiny?
Alan. Tiny, you said that like it was a question. Tiny?
Yeah.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
hey, I just read what's on the script, okay?
Audience, if you don't know what's going on, we're just excited. We're going to have a really good episode tonight. Before we get into it, we're going to
Don't we promote all of our shows as being really good shows?
Yeah, it's because we get better and better each one. So it'll be awesome.
Just like fine love.
I can't wait for 3 years from now.
3 years from now, we'll be paying other people to do this, and we'll just sit back raking in the adulation. They'll just wear.
I'm good.
They'll just wear our masks.
We hope so.
Yeah,
we hope so.
Yeah, we do. Listeners, as always, if you would like to reach us, get us at Deadpan. Excuse me, Deadpan Studio 18.
Yeah, try to type that out.
Yeah. Deadpanstudio18 at gmail.com, SOKyNostalgia at gmail.com. You've got our website, deadpan-studio.com. We've got, we've got at SOKy Nostalgia and Deadpan Studio 18 on the social media, on the Twitter and Facebook. I call it the Twitter because I'm an old man. But you can also get us here on the Podbean app, which is one of the places we stream. The web address for that is deadpanstudio.podbean.com. You can also get us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, and Spotify. Yeah.
Whew.
I'm getting better at that all the time.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to relax the throat in order to get
Come
it all
on,
the way.
people. I gave y'all a softball to that's what she said, and nobody fucking took it.
Yeah, well, sometimes sometimes they don't like the softballs. They like the ones that, kind of draw up a little bit, kind of retain their youth. Oh, it's going to be a good show.
Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, let's do this.
All right. Well, tonight, we're not going to do any...
Are we lubing it up, or are we just going straight in?
Oh, we're going in dry. What are you talking about?
We're going in dry. Okay.
Yeah, we don't really have any news this evening just because it's still... We corona down right now, man. Look, we're at home. We're recording. We're having a podcast. We're having a good time. I'm on my second monster of the day. And we're recording on a Friday night. This will be out on Tuesday. Audience, have you noticed that our podcasts are coming out on Tuesday? I hope you got our releases for that. And if not, check this out. We're recording later into the week. And because this coronavirus actually makes people busier, some anyway, it's going to be released on Tuesday. If you don't like it, get over it. Listen to us anyway.
Send us your hate mail.
Yeah. Actually, send us an email. It's very simple. Here's what you do. I don't know how Android users do it, but all you have to do is get your phone. This little thing down here that looks like an envelope that probably has a notification that you probably never open. Click that open. Then hit this little thing that's got a box and an arrow. That means new message. You create that. You type in our web address, our email address at deadpanstudio18 at gmail.com or SOKyNostalgia at gmail.com, and you type in a little note to us. I don't care if it's good, bad, nothing. And then you hit this little thing It's just an arrow that says send. It doesn't actually say send. It's just an arrow for it to send. And if it does send, you'll hear a whoosh type thing. That means you've done your job right. And if not, you suck.
And if you're a smart Android user, you use the Gmail app for everything. So,
yeah. So.
Oh, he's a funny guy right here.
This is why I only do one show a night.
What are your other nights like?
Trust me, you don't.
Wah, wah, wah.
Oh, my nights aren't exciting. I'm sitting. I'm sitting.
Damn, I really hope you didn't say that around her.
No. I'm sitting in a bedroom trying to get the best sound possible in the limited space that I have until the Rona is done, staring at an unopened box of compression socks. That's my week. Good luck.
Wow. That's exciting.
Yeah, tell me about it. Anyway, all right.
Are we talking about socks now?
Compression
I really just used one. Oh.
Is her name Susie?
Wow.
I'm not telling her name.
She a little crusty.
I'm not telling her name.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Are you calling her crusty, or are you just talking about a sock? Either way.
Moving on.
Moving on. I'm getting a notification that we could possibly have a guest joining us.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool.
What?
Yeah. If they end up joining us, Alan, you could do the introduction.
Sweet.
Awesome. All right. So, let me clear my throat.
We should at least tell the people what we're talking about before we introduce any guests.
Sure. Go right ahead, Tiny.
I'll be honest with you guys. We've had this set up for a couple of months with what we were going to be recording, and the show tonight is by far the one I have been excited about the most. We are talking about the local music scene here out of Southern Kentucky. So
yeah.
Super stoked about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We are. I mean, this does nothing but create a heavy dose of nostalgia for all of us, because some of these bands that we're going to talk about, some of them are still current, but a lot of them either aren't together anymore for one reason or another, or they've just changed their name or some reason. But they came into our lives in certain points in time that created special memories for us, even if, like, you could listen to this music and not like it, but, that's fine. It's the memories that go with it that make the music good. I mean, it's like the, Tiny, I'm going to call you and your brother out. You were having a discussion between the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Yep, absolutely.
I know which ones I prefer more. And it's not, in my personal opinion, it's not because I think one band is better than the other. I think it's because of the memories that one band brings more than the other that makes me like them more.
I don't want to get into that debate too much, but I just want to say, I'd
like to hear some answers.
Well, first of all, my answer is the Beatles. And second of all, it's not because of...
And not the shitty Beatles
music
either.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's not because they're better than the Stones. It's because of what they accomplished in the time frame that they did it. Because you have to understand, between 1964 and 1970, they recorded every piece of Beatles music ever. We're not talking about the Rolling Stones having a 50-year career and putting out albums every 10 years. You're talking about the Beatles put out 5 albums in the matter of 4 years. They were in the studio, they were recording, they were focused, and they were doing what they were doing, and still have as many number one hits as they do.
You're telling me that the Beatles were focused?
they put out 8 albums in 6 years. So you tell me.
Hey, I'm not bad mouthing them, but you did answer incorrectly. But But that's okay.
That's another show. That's another show. We can get into that later.
Show.
That's right.
This would probably also be a good time to capitalize on what Tiny said. So originally, before this season even started, the plan was to do a 5-part episode, 5-part series focusing solely on the music of Southern Kentucky.
Correct.
That kind of fell through for the time being.
The Rona.
Well, yeah, there was plays, there was the holidays, it was a mess. But anyway, we'll get to that eventually.
Not bad.
We'll get to that eventually. Next week's episode was actually recorded before anything you've heard so far this season, if I'm not mistaken, Matt.
You are correct.
Okay. And that was originally supposed to be a part of the 5-part series, so if you happen to hear us mention that during next week's episode, that's what we're talking about. And it's still going to come in some type of fashion. That's what she said. But you'll have to wait on that because it's going to be even bigger than what we had originally planned. So tonight,
that's what she said.
Yeah, tonight is actually a good segue. Tonight is actually a good segue into next week's episode. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there for the listeners, just to keep you up to speed on what's going on.
Wow, I think that's the most Alan has talked on here in quite some time.
Yeah,
it was an enjoyable experience.
Somehow. Yeah, very much so.
Well,
somehow.
Somehow.
All right, so let's get this party started. Let's go.
So let's do a little bit of explanation about this local music. Okay, so I don't know. Obviously, I don't know what anybody else here has done other than what we talked about right before Mike. But I went through my old music catalog, and I found all the old music that I used to follow and I currently follow for the local area. Now, there's some that I haven't included tonight because I was hoping some other people might mention them. Like there's one I know for a fact that Alan is kind of partial to. We were talking about that a little bit today too. So
no, not at all.
Yeah, he gave me a call earlier. So I came up with, there were 17 bands.
Court of 3.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And Pilot? Why was Pilot not on the list?
Because I never followed Pilot.
I'm sorry, Matt.
So that's where everybody else comes in. But I compiled a list of 17 that I followed back then and currently today. Now there's one or two I didn't include, just because when you start making a long list, it's time to make some cuts. So even though I do follow them or did follow them, they're not included because these I still listen to, every now and then.
That's another disclaimer that we should throw out there too. In addition to Matt's list, I'm sure myself and Tiny are going to throw out band names that aren't on the list. So for any locals, it's not intentional. We just don't think about them. If you don't hear the band that you liked or that you were in, it's not a personal attack. It's just, it'll come later. Trust me.
You know what? It is a personal attack. Send us an email.
Yeah.
let us know how you feel.
We will allow you to come on the show and air your grievances.
No, just email. Just email.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so the cool thing about all this, though, is one of our hosts hasn't really followed local music, which is a good thing for this topic. It gives an outsider's perspective about, it's like, we love this band, and but then you could be like, they were the shitty Beatles. It's
which is funny because his favorite band.
Don't you fucking go there.
I have a cousin who's not in a band, by the way. What he refers to Brad's favorite band as. I don't agree with him. Yeah. I'm just saying that's a funny little tidbit there.
That is funny.
I'm sorry. Now, who is this, Alan? A cousin?
Yeah, he's a cousin of mine. Yeah.
Oh, well, is he inbred?
Every morning because he's lonely.
Oh,
No.
Half a loaf.
oh.
And let's be clear. Tom is my favorite.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought Tom Petty was his favorite.
Yeah.
Well,
Tom Petty is the number one. However, the one Alan's referring to is my 1B. So
Well, but we were talking about how Sir Bradley is the one that never really followed the music, obviously. If we, I'm not saying that in a negative way at all. And I even said that before, Sir Bradley says something about getting hate. Hate. Come on now. We pick on each other too much to actually consider hate.
Right.
But it's a good
No,
thing.
it'll be nice. It'll be nice to have somebody that wasn't in the moment when the music was happening to come in and say,
Why?
I understand. Yeah, I was gonna say I understand why you guys are all about it, but let's be honest, this was at best.
It kind of makes you stop and go, well, maybe that's. Well, I'm not going to say that in case one of the bands listens back on this, but let's be respectful. There's obviously more than one reason why some local bands don't make it as far as they would like to, and a big portion of it is just the saturation of the music business, and not very many musical, companies. So,
Although I would like to say and go on record, and Matt can back me up on this, for over 20 years now, I've been saying that the local area was turning into Seattle, and we've had a few big bands come up, but
yeah, we might.
the talent in this area is ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's a shame. Like only 2 or 3 of them really get the deserved exposure, because there is so many great bands in this area that deserve to get out there.
Yeah, I tell you what, we might as well
Past
go
and
ahead.
present.
Yeah, we might as well go ahead and get the quote unquote elephants in the room out of the way and talk about them a little bit. First of all, of course, we've got Blackstone Cherry. So if you look up our area code and bands, that's the first thing that's going to pop up, because they are currently one of the biggest bands that came from this area. Blackstone Cherry. They are a mixture of hard rock and southern rock and blues.
Blues, yeah. I was going to say there's a big blues influence there.
Oh yeah, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger too.
Absolutely. I loved their last album, by the way.
I can't wait to hear the new one.
Oh yeah, they are a multi-talented band, and some really cool personalities too. And I'm not just blowing smoke; it's the truth. They are completely down to earth. They haven't let quote unquote. I don't even know if you can consider rock and roll fame anymore, unless you're one of the big legendary bands like Metallica or Rammstein. I said that incorrectly on purpose.
Yeah, Sinister,
Rammstein.
This is how down to earth they are. Next week's episode, which I mentioned earlier, after we got done recording that, we stood outside for how long, Matt?
An hour.
Talking to the guest. Okay. So, we're still talking about the same thing. We're talking about life, talking about music.
We should mention the band members.
Oh, we will. We'll get to that.
Okay.
But we were out there talking to him, me, Matt, and the guest, and we're talking about Blackstone Cherry at one point, and it was late. It was like what, 11?
Not quite that late. We stopped recording a little after 9, and we talked out there for, a little, about an hour and a half. Hour and a
2
half.
hours.
So it was about 10:30.
Yeah. So, and all of a sudden, the guest is like, "Well, hell, there's John Fred right there." So John Fred Young, being the drummer for Blackstone Cherry,
and
is just driving by. So,
son of one of the Kentucky Headhunters.
Son and nephew. As well. His dad, Richard Young, rhythm guitarist for the Kentucky Headhunters, and his uncle Fred Young, drummer.
Yep.
And
phenomenal.
while we're talking about Kentucky Headhunters, real quick, just Greg Martin also had a band that's on this list. And I went to school with Greg's son, Eric, and my wife used to do photography for the band that we'll be speaking about later, which was kind of a rhythm and blues type of deal. So,
John Fred,
We have an incoming, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Just a second. John Fred comes driving by, and so we wave, and he pulls over and rolls his window down, and he's like, "What are y'all doing?" And he's like, "Well, we just finished recording a podcast." He said, "A what?" A podcast. He said, "A podcast or a podcast?" And we were like, "Well, both if you got any on you." And he's like, "Well, I'm running late. I better go." So the funny thing was, though, the best part about it is when we finally left, because we talked even longer after that happened.
Yep.
I actually got behind their bus. He was late to get to the bus because they were going on tour.
Wow.
They were hitting the road for a few days at least.
He would have been very late if it was a podcast.
But anyway, yes, we have a guest that just joined us in the music world. Anyway, he is, well, I'll let him speak for himself, but this is Mr. Cody Baker.
How's it going, guys?
How's it going, man?
Hello, sir.
hey, what's up, Cody?
It is going just fine. I'm
Cody,
actually out. Go ahead, Al.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I'm just sitting outside grilling some teriyaki chicken.
Oh, that sounds good.
Hell yeah, man.
So,
Talk about having a podcast. Now we're talking about some teriyaki chicken, man.
yes, almost goes hand in hand.
All right, for the audience when they listen to this, would you please explain who you are?
Well, as Alan said, my name is Cody Baker. I'm not really a local musician. I do play around or whatever, but I'm actually the guitar tech / I guess like stage manager for Otis, which they are a local band. They've been to Europe a couple of times and doing a big U.S. tour. I think it was last year before last. So that's kind of my stance in the music industry, I guess.
And of course, we don't have to tell you, Otis is an awesome band. Very,
Yes.
very blues, heavy rock. It is amazing. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I've been talking all day. Go check them out on YouTube. It's Otis, OTIS. You can't miss them. They're amazing. Saw them play over at Rib Lickers, which is a local barbecue place here. If you're listening to us and you're not from around here, Rib Lickers, they have a stage set up. It's an awesome place, but we're not talking about them. We're talking about Otis. Otis has a really nice catalog of. They've got two albums out. Well, I said two albums out right now. They have 2 albums that you can purchase from them. That's the thing with local music. You may be able to find their albums in Walmart, the local Walmarts around the area in which they're the most popular, but you can definitely find their music online to be able to purchase, listen to previews, enjoy them, and just go.
Yeah, they're available on iTunes.
Yep,
Yes,
they are.
yes, that's right.
And their website, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if their website is still up during this whole
Corona.
extravaganza that we have going on.
But their
The
YouTube
Rona.
is.
Yes, the YouTube is.
Yeah, the Otis Road Show. If you have not checked out their YouTube and checked out their behind the scenes antics, you'll love it. It is great.
Yes, it is.
Now, have you outside of course Otis, have you followed much of the local music scene up until that point, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been familiar with, especially a lot of the bigger bands, the Headhunters and Blackstone Cherry. I've always been a big fan of Superfuzz.
Oh yeah.
I was hoping somebody would mention them. That's one of the bands I was talking about that they didn't make my list of music that I currently listen to today because the mood I was in when I listened to them is quite different than with the rest of the bands. So, but they were an excellent band too. Super Fuzz. Oh my gosh.
Damn, I hadn't heard that name in a while. That's pretty impressive.
That's actually one that I've heard of. So,
and kind of, I guess I won't say it's the offspring of that band, but the band Sour Cream. I don't know if it's been mentioned or not because I came in late. But Sour Cream is an amazing band. It is made up of two of Greg Martin's grandchildren. So,
I didn't know that.
Talk about a legacy band.
Checking it out.
Yes.
Yeah,
Talent in the blood through the fingertips.
Yes.
Man.
And I believe they just came out with a record. I'm not for sure. Look them up on YouTube. I know they have a couple of singles that they released. But Sour Cream.
Yeah.
And they're I think all, and they're 3 members, just like the original Cream. And I think they're all 3 like under 18. So it's it's amazing.
impressive. Yeah.
And they're in what relation to Greg?
The grandchildren.
Oh,
grandson.
nice.
Yeah,
Greg Martin, of course, is the lead guitarist for the Kentucky Headhunters.
And
he was in Rufus Huff as well.
Which was the Headhunters originally. See how far back we're going with the local names. Itchy Brothers.
yes.
Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the thing about this area. We talked about this a little while ago, but there is so much untapped potential that
Yes.
it is amazing the kind of music that comes from this area. And because we live in Kentucky, I know the first thought is country music, maybe blues, because we're kind of geared more towards the South. However,
Nashville, Memphis, that makes sense.
yeah, but we've got so much more than that. I mean, Nappy Roots came out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, which is 30 minutes away from us.
Funny story about that, actually. My brother was friends with most of that band.
Oh, we have another guest.
We do have another guest.
Awesome.
So I guess I'll introduce this one as well.
Yes, please.
So we got the Dazzler, also known as Kevin Gross, local musician. I'll let you take it from there, sir.
Hey, Kevin, what's going on, man?
En route to Bowling Green to fix an electronics problem. I thought now would be a good time to dial in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We were talking. We're obviously this episode of SOKy Nostalgia by Deadpan Studio Podcast. I'm name dropping.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's heavily geared towards local music, and this gentleman right here was in a couple of bands that me and one of my hosts, Tiny here, have followed heavily. Jalam and Chasing Lane.
The old school Jalam.
That's right.
The old school Jalam. That's right, my man.
We still have the albums.
What's really funny about Jalam is when I first met Chris, how that band actually formed, and it was through a friend of mine named Jim Bob Clement. I was at Jim Bob's jam, and I said, well, you got some pretty good riffs. He's like, there's only one thing missing. He said, you need some good vocals. He said, I know a dude that will sing and probably, so he gave me the name Chris Klein. So I went out in town, and back then people were cruising up and down the McDonald's. There's a strip. He said, look. And I pulled up, and I said, are you Chris Klein? And he was like, yeah. I was like, pull down here a minute, I was going to talk to you. So that's kind of how me and Chris got together, was that simple. Just, I didn't know him, he really didn't know me. Well, through the years, I'll make it precise, but I'll leave out some stuff that probably other people wouldn't really care. But Chris had a of weird in the beginning because I'm older than Chris. So like, he was always looking up to me, and I didn't want him to do that. I want you to feel this part. And I don't know. I guess through whole life, me and him, when the bands all split up and went their separate ways, I knew that me and Chris would probably always still be friends, just because our ties are different. Some people join bands and play, and I eat it, I breathe it, I study it. I gave a lot of things up in my life that I probably shouldn't have, and missed certain things that I shouldn't have over music. But in the end, it is what it is. But I wouldn't trade any of my memories or things that I got to witness. I was lucky, man. I'm telling you, if a dude in this world ever had luck, it was me, because I'm really not that talented of a guitar player. I lack certain skills.
Oh, that's a bunch of bullshit right there.
I would also like to say bullshit, but
That's a humble man, is what that is.
and like, there's a lot of men that, like, my two influences really as a kid, because I didn't have the internet or like, you know, like to hear anything, like to learn. That's why these are two. I'd go listen to Greg Martin. Of course, you gotta have Greg. I would listen to Kenny play bluegrass. I didn't know anything about music. I'm very, yeah, I'm a fool. Thompson, Mike was playing with 30-35, Daddy Longlegs, those type. Mike, if you ever get a chance, look him up. Oh, he sent me an actual video today playing Van Halen licks. And Todd Coop, like those guys influenced me heavily as a kid because they could play all these songs, and they were playing the stuff that we wanted to play. I'll give you a good. I was playing drums. I was a drummer, and my friend came over and brought Van Halen album record, and he was like, "Dude, you're not going to believe what's on this record." And I was like, "What is it?" And he said, "It's called Van Halen." And I said, "Let's go in here and spin it up and check it out." So we spun up the record. I heard Eruption. I got right up immediately. And I went and told my dad, I was like, "You know, I like these drums." Because my dad had just bought this drum set for me. And I was like, "We got to go to the music store tomorrow." Dad was like, "Why?" I was like, "Because we're trading this all in to get some new guitars and equipment, because I'm going to learn how to play like Eddie Van Halen." That's really how it happened.
I mean, I'm sure, I know that Matt and Tiny, you guys mentioned it earlier, where you guys just followed Jalam and Jason Lane
oh yeah,
to pretty much every show.
Jalam and Chasing Lane changed my point of view of music so much. And while I have Kevin here and I can ask him a question, Jalam had a song called Genius that had just an amazing opening riff. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, Genius, I'm going to tell you actually what made me come up with that idea, that opening riff for Genius. Because, like I said, back in the day, we didn't have the internet. I'm going to tell you, I got to add this funny story on there because it's true. Now, you got to think, in the high school, I want to be a rock star. Everybody does. I want to be like Eddie Van Halen. I want to be like Georgia Lynch. So, you got a magazine, and it had rock clothing in it. You didn't have no internet. Remember that now.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to these magazines, and I was like, well, we got like a talent show coming up. So I talked my mom into getting these clothes for that. And here's the cool, it's hilarious, but it's true. It was a zebra pant. I got to tell you about these because it's funny. The pants were called Too Bad, like a two and bad. You had to heat them up in the dryer to put them on.
Wow.
Like, as a kid, you're like getting this stuff, and I'm like, wow, I didn't really realize you got to heat this up. I guess everybody does it. So you heat that up, put them jeans on. Anyway, So you had stuff like that going on, and everything was either done through books, talking, or magazines. So now I had a magazine once. I think it was it might have been either Hit Parade or Guitar World came out. It had Joe Satriani surfing with an alien. It was a plastic record. I was like, who in the hell knows Joe Satriani? So we it's like a piece of plastic. It's flimsy, like I could wad it up. And we put it on a record player and we're listening to Surfing with the Alien. I thought, oh my God, that's the most incredible shit I've ever heard. And I'm living that. Gave me the idea and later to do Genius because I was thinking about that arpeggiated thing that Joe Satriani was playing. And on the same day, I was listening to Van Halen Cathedral when Eddie was doing the volume knob swells. And I thought, I'm going to do this, but do the bar chord as this and make that bouncing sound. And it'll dazzle, it'll work out. So Chris was like, I don't really know. So we played it. He was like, it's perfect. I was like, it just kind of fit.
I gotta tell you, man, the first time that I was ever exposed to Jason Lane, I missed out on the Jalam scene. But
I feel sad for you.
I'm so well. I caught up eventually, but I was in high school, and I'll never forget this. We were in the computer lab, and everybody starts talking about this music video, and I was like, "What music video are you talking, dude? Chris Klein?" I was like, "I don't know who the hell Chris Kleins is." And they're like, "No, he's in a band, man, and that they have this video from like a garage or a basement. I can't remember which one it was, but the song's called The Devil." And like everybody in the computer lab almost was watching this damn video. It was just the coolest thing.
What the devil really, what that song really was. Here's the deal. Believe it or not, sometimes I might cuss like a sailor. I try to limit that now as I get older. I mellowed out in my age, but as a younger, we were rocking 24. Music wasn't something we listened to, it's what we lived. I lived in houses where to make this story crazy but cool, we would not even have enough money to like buy a hot dog per day to eat. So we would cut it in half and we lived off of it. And had hand washing clothes. There'd be flies in the basement where somebody spilled beer and they're trying to jam that they could pack you off. That's how big. I mean, it kind of reminded me of old, like it wasn't like we're just all dressed up as hip kids running out and we lived pretty rough. And I was like, maybe some of the best songs come from those times because we didn't have what we had. And like, you know, the devil, like, it's kind of like this. We would jam over at the garage. So on Sundays it's church. And my grandmother and them were really strict about religion and like what you're supposed to be doing. So like, you're not jamming rock and roll right after church. That ain't happening. So my grandma, like when one day we were tearing it up in the garage, and my grandma, it's kind of one of them things. If you could have seen the look on her face in the bed there that second when they just open up the door and not a word said, and everybody stops, and it's so quiet. Then my grandmother goes, "Music is the devil."
Wow! Wow!
First line out of the song.
Yes, and that's where that. And this was what was kind of weird. And when I first joined Chasing Lanes, this was how that happened. It was even funnier. Me and Chris had done, when July ended, it didn't go on the right terms. And maybe if I had one thing to say, like when bands split up sometimes, you're better off, man, to go out on good terms. It's hard sometimes. It might take a year for everybody to get over it, but, you know, everybody makes mistakes. I've sure made mine. But I would try to do whatever I could to keep my friends. But me and Chris were kind of into it. And they were actually going to go to the studio and start recording some material. and one of the band members said, I need to borrow a Les Paul. So I was like, well, look, I got a 1978 Silverburst. It's the one everybody's looking for. I said, I'll bring that over. I'm going to bring that over. Eric actually called me. And I think maybe David's kind of idea of him setting that up. But I said, I don't even want to be there. Chris was in the room. And David said, well, that's fine. He said, I'll wait till they all go to lunch. And I will call you, and you just rip that right over here. I was like, awesome. So
now, Kevin, this is David Barrett, right?
Yeah. So,
okay.
So Dave calls. I take the guitar over there, and David's rocking on some tracks. And I was like, who in the hell's playing guitar on there? David said, Justin and Chris. He said, they're having a couple issues. I was like, really? I was like, it sounds great, though. I said, it's rocking. I meant, and I said, I just want to piss him off. I said, let me have that guitar for a minute. And I said, I'm going to go in that room in there. And I said, I want to play a guitar solo on this song. And I said, then you transfer it when he gets back and he'll remember what he's missing.
Dude, that's amazing.
And then they come back to the studio and they were like, damn, that's supposed to be in there. So it ended up, that's how I joined Chase.
Man,
hey Cody, you got a mute option, buddy.
Sorry about that. I had to run inside the house.
Oh, that's okay. Well,
All right, man. I'll run through the house louder than that sometime.
Well, see, that's the beauty of this podcast is we this makes us relatable.
That's right. Hey, man, out of all the songs that the band's ever done, everybody's got their favorite. But I want to tell you, I think one song that, I don't know, it was just magic. And how we had written the song or whatever, Chris kind of changed it around a little bit. And I didn't want to take anything from him because I always said this, anytime that you want to say something in a song, don't ever let me or my ideas stop it up to a point, you know, like. But anyway, when we did the song Flow, that was from July.
Oh, dude.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
Love it.
I was about to ask about that, actually.
When you said that name, I literally got chills.
And here's
Which
the thing.
it got morphed into Roll eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, like, Flow came into. Here's the thing about it. Like, I used to be a network engineer at HDK, and I loved technology. So I was always a supporter of the space program as far as I contributed money to the space program. And, like, I dreamed that I had this song, and I was like, it had to start out, it had to have John F. Kennedy in it, it had to have Martin Luther King in it, it had to have those influential people saying what's real. And I was like, what's really real? I said, when my dad was in Vietnam, and, you know, the real story for that song is like this. Because it all got twisted around, but here's the real truth. It says the blue always waits for the sun to show. And I was like, when my dad was in Vietnam, it was cloudy and stuff a lot. And that kind of stuff. But it was really based around that, the tribute of people.
Yeah, we had lemon pepper.
And
Do we?
I was like, yeah, we know weed smoking. We know because that was there. And then I got
talking
what it is. But it was okay. I mean, I like when people get your music, interpret it their way, and I think that's what it's supposed to be. So I'm like, I do it all the time. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, me and Matt, before I called you earlier, we were talking about that song. he asked me if I knew what it was really about, and I said yes, because you had told me before. But before you explained the background of it, I always thought it was just about, you're given different choices, and they're not always from the correct people you should be listening to. So rolling 1.5s, my mind automatically goes to, oh, this is about weed and drugs.
The part of the song where I said, like, live for yourself, die for your mother.
Yeah.
So shoot down your brother. What I'm saying is this. We need to live for ourselves and make choices for ourselves. But I'll die for my mother. I would really die for my mother. But we also die for this country. She's your mother. And I said, pick up a pistol and shoot down your brother. We're always going to war with people over religious beliefs, political beliefs. We're ready to cut someone down before we know who they are.
Yeah, we're human brothers. That's exactly right.
So I said, that's the thing I was trying to say in a weird way. Was like, live for yourself, die for your mother. Pick up a pistol and shoot down your brother. That is the ordinary flow. That's what life.
You're right.
You can look beside you now and look at it.
It's such a fantastic song, man.
From beginning to end.
Well, and that's the thing. For me, to see it come from Jalam when you guys first put it out, and then move to Chasing Lane, to still be able to do the song and to still have that feeling behind it, it's just amazing.
You know, like I said, there's some other people that sung it before and everything, but I'm going to tell you something, like, it's just because he knew what it was about, and Chris put the right emphasis on what needed to, and he made it come alive, like, and I was like, you know, we could all play songs and stuff, but there's some people that can take just that one little thing and take it far beyond what you could ever do with it. And I thought Chris did that well.
Well, hey, man, you guys, this is something that I haven't spoken about on the podcast, I don't believe. Of course, the listeners who've been listening for a while know I dabble in acting the best that I can. I had wrote a song for an independent film, and I contacted Kevin. I wanted Kevin to be the guitarist on it. Well, he took it and like ran with it. He contacted Chris Kleins. He was like, "What if I get Chris Kleins?" I was like, "Well, shit. If you think he'll do it, sure. Good luck." But I mean, not thinking that they're buddies. Of course, he's going to do it. Then he's like, "Well, what about Big V from Nappy Roots, who Matt you mentioned earlier?" And I was like, "Sure, sure, try, Kevin." Yeah, I didn't think it was ever going to happen, but they took my
What's
lyrics,
really
man.
fun about that song to me is here's the best thing of that whole song is I pulled Big V out of Nappy Roots and put him in a rock song. And like V, he said that it pressed him to do new things. And here's the cool, like, I've been friends with Big V now, I guess, 8 or 10 years. I call him all the time. I recorded little snippets and tracks and goof-offs with Big V all the time. He's a phenomenal person. His rapping skills and ability is far beyond something I could ever imagine. And, like, the way V sees the world is different from me, and I thought, hey, let's take this one thing and mix it with this for a change and see what we can come up with. And I'm like, I would do it again in a minute. He calls me all the time and says, you got any more projects like that other one? I'm like, well,
Alan, I'm a little pissed off that this is the first I'm hearing about this. I'm going to need a link to that song.
yeah, it's called United We Fall. And, like, here was the thing, too, for that song, baby, what's cool to me about it is I'm a Rush fan, like a Rush. Like, to me, nobody kind of done it like Rush. And that's part of the song. At the end, I got to recreate my idea of what Rush would do. And add Big V in it with Chris and everything. I thought, it's magical because. And here's another cool thing. I thought when we came in the studio, I had no idea what we're going to play. I didn't want to look at people and go, well, I don't want to downgrade you today, but I really have no idea. But I was like, yo, yeah, I've got all these ideas. I had none. And to see everybody get together and then like 10 or 15 minutes come up with a cool song, I was like,
Oh
hey,
man,
it's great.
yeah, exactly. It was so cool. I'm sorry, Cody just sent me a message. He had to cut it short.
Yeah, Sir Bradley just slipped out as well, so just go ahead and acknowledge the both of them. Thank you both for being on here tonight. Yep. But as we continue on.
Oh yeah. He was like Kevin was saying about V's rapping ability. I had the entire lyrics done, and when we got into the studio, Chris started making it his own, which was fine with me. I was just happy that you guys were doing it, but they turned it into something that I didn't think possible. Like they literally, all V wanted to know, what's the movie about? Do you have any footage? I was able to get some clips from the director, and I showed it to all those guys, and they created the song right there in the studio.
Oh, that's magic.
I mean,
is magic.
Chris
Dude,
was writing. Kevin was there with him. V literally, when it came time to record his bars, he did 8 bars, and he wrote them right before he went into the recording booth.
Yeah, he never really knew what he was going to say.
No.
That's a thing V that's beautiful. Let me tell you about his mind. This is the first time I ever met Big V. The guy in Bowling Green had a recording studio. I'm sorry for that ding, and it's my thing saying perm.
You're okay.
Anyway, Big V called me down, and we were hanging out at this guy's, and he was like, hey, V calls me Pee-wee sometimes. He was like, Pee-wee, we're going to shoot some pole. How about that? And I was like, okay, cool. Anyway, V starts rapping. And he keeps on rapping, and he's rapping. And V rapped for 2 hours while we're shooting 2 or 3 games of pool, and he never said the same word twice. Like, now I know when I listen to Nappy Roots why he's so influential in that band is because of his abilities, his skill, and his knowledge of words and mixing these words around things. I was like, dude, I've never seen. And I was like, Chris has got a talent of writing, but I was like, V can do that, but in a whole different thing, and really, I don't know, man. It's just like 2 different people doing 2 different things, but at the same time, we're all on the same common ground. And I was like, to have that, for a change, I'm excited.
Yeah. I mean, I was just blown away that he even walked through the door, because Po Folks, Nappy Roots featuring Anthony Hamilton. I mean, it's a 3-time Grammy-nominated second hit single by Nappy Roots. And I was like, I have a Grammy-nominated. All I did was call Kevin Gross.
Never underestimate the Dazzler.
Never.
That's right.
I told them, I was like, hey, just through music and like, I think sometimes I'll tell it like it is, but I've played with bands and different ones sometimes, and that's so friendly. And I was like, dude, my grandma taught me when I was a kid, I catch more things with honey than I ever will doing any other way. And
right.
I always told V, like, and I was true with V, like, there's times V might write something, he said, did you think that was actually good? I said, nope. And so he said, okay. He'd go right back in there, man, and redo something and then really amaze you. But,
what really blew me away, though, was he was writing his bars, and then he got stuck on the very last line. And he was like, he just started rattling off words like a mile a minute. It was ridiculous. And he's asking me, what rhymes with such and such? And I'm like, I froze. I was like, what? It felt like, it was a very collaborative feel in that studio. It was so cool. Like, I got as much on video as I possibly could, because I know my phone died at one point, and I was very upset I didn't bring a charger. But I have a lot of it, so I'm gonna end up editing that together, because we got it hasn't been officially announced yet, so I guess I could let the cat out of the bag. We got a United We Fall Part 2.
awesome.
That is awesome. Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
We're actually this
absolutely.
one is actually going to go for distribution. We're going to do it. United We Fall. It started out. We really didn't think it was going to go anywhere, so the director really didn't put much thought into that, into distribution. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, you can't have an action movie without a cool song. And then the song itself is gotta go somewhere. I mean, so we're gonna incorporate the first one with the second. So yeah, you'll be hearing more about that song as time goes.
And Tiny, if you would like to see United We Fall, I do have a copy of it that I got from Mr. Alan Hogan, and you shall
Yes, absolutely.
check it out. It's awesome. It's a great movie.
Well, thank you.
One of the things that I was always impressed with is how universal of a language music is.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the bands that have come out in America or in Europe that have been big in America, it's universal. It's about the feeling that you get when you listen to the music, and it's so universal. It's beyond genres. It's beyond anything other than talent and thought.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Kevin can attest to this. When you play in front of a crowd and you bring up just this one certain song that you may not even realize that it would connect the way it does, or even if it connects with the artist in a different way, but the way it connects with the crowd and everything just kind of stops for a minute. Man, that's the magic of the language of music.
I'm gonna tell you the most. I don't think it could ever get any better than for me. When I went to Europe with them guys, this didn't have nothing to do with chasing me. But when I took some time out here and I left, I went with him. And there's a couple of the gigs. I'm gonna say we're probably talking 20,000, 30,000. I mean, I didn't literally sit there and count. But normally that was the amount of people that are playing those festivals. And I'll tell you something, man. When you get up there and play a song or two, like being able to say, well, come up and play, damn, who cares if we know the whole song all the way through? Just come on and jam. And this was always how it ended up going. Chris would go back there and get on the drums, and John Fred would grab a harp, and we would start jamming on this stuff. And I'm like, there's a part in true music that I get lost. Like, my hands are in time. My notes I'm playing are in time. But my brain gets out of phase. And, like, I'm kind of outside myself. I'm listening to this stuff, and I'm listening to Ben, and I'm hearing John Fred. And there is an energy inside that I can't describe. Like, there ain't a beer, there ain't a drug, there's not something that you could take that could take you to that level till you ever get to feel it. I'm like, I wished that every musician that ever played that had that love of that music in them could experience that feeling. Because I'm like, dude, I'm going to tell you something. When we were jamming, and I don't know, I tell Jim Bob sometimes, I was like, we call it the zone. I was like, once y'all hit that zone part, and we were playing simultaneously the same note, working up and down these guitars at different positions, and we hit it at the same spot on the last note. And I was like, at that point, it seemed like time stood still. And when you looked at people's faces, and like that part's going wide open, you were just lost for a few seconds. Like, well, I don't really understand what we just done, but whatever it was, it must have been awesome.
You created something special.
Yeah, and I was like, in like one of my favorite shows, not just because he's one of my favorite artists, but just that sound and get to see him. It was the night Black Sun Cherry opened up for Dio's Napoleon Paris. And I'm like, not only that, but we're in a casino that's redone in Paris, and we're fixing a jam with the legendary Tony Iommi. You're fixing a jam with Black Sabbath. How good could it get?
Yeah, man, that's amazing.
And I'm gonna tell you something. Tony Iommi come out there, with that old SG and lit it up like it's never. He punched holes in my chest with the mid-range tones and stuff that he had in those guitar sound. And here's a true story I'm gonna tell you. You know how sometimes people, I believe this, man, I really do. The Lord puts people in your life in seasons, and some's there for seasons, some's there to go and come and go. But there was a dude right before the concert started, and I went outside to smoke, and this older man was leaning up against the wall, and he was almost in tears. And I was like, dude, I said, have a cigarette. I said, what's the problem? He said, me and Ronnie are really good friends. And he said, I don't know what, he had actually lost his concert ticket for that show. And you know how anybody could lie, but I was like, hey, man, I got to a concert one time. It was actually AC/DC fly on the wall and lost my concert ticket. And I was outside about in tears. So this dude, I was like, look, are you really friends with Ronnie? And he was like, yeah, man, I was working. I bet in my mind there was a part of me that said he is not. But the other part said, that dude was like you. And another dude gave you a chance. Well, you going to give this guy a chance. So I was like, hey, come on in, man. You can come with me. And sure enough, dude, before that concert started, we were in the hallway, and here come Ronnie. And Ronnie seen him, and they started hugging and shaking hands. And that guy, he was like, man, Ronnie Dio said, it's good to see you, man. He said, I ain't seen you in like 15 years. He said, I'm so glad you got to come. He said, hell, come up and stand on the stage with us.
Oh.
And that dude, I'm still friends with that dude. His name's Don. He sends me stuff from, that's where he lives is in Paris, but he'll send me stuff on Facebook, little things, laughing. But I mean, little things like that, man, make festivals and stuff fun. You just never know. You just don't know.
I tell you what, we'll take this time to go ahead and dedicate this podcast to him because, man, that's heartwarming. That is just a great, heartwarming story.
Amazing.
And that dude was literally in tears, and I'm not kidding you, dude. When Ronnie James Dio came out of that dressing room, it wasn't 10 seconds. He seen him, and he was like, yeah, Don. He was like, hey, man, like, it would be like me walking out and seeing Ben or something at the concert. The first thing I'm going to do is get my hug.
Yeah.
So, like, it was kind of that. And then he told Ronnie, he said, he let me come in. He said, I lost my ticket, Ronnie. Ronnie said, it's a good thing we're playing with Blackstone Cherry because he said, these guys are cool. He said, he let you in, didn't he? Ronnie looked at me and told me, he said, man, he said, he really is a good friend of mine. He said, he's worked with me, and he said, he was my tour manager. So, that's how it rolled that day.
Oh,
That's
Wow.
awesome.
I'm going to leave you on a good one.
all right.
The first time I met Dio, like I've met him beforehand, but this is meeting. You're coming into the dressing room meeting.
Right.
So Dio enters Blackstone Cherry's dressing room. I'm like, all right, it was quiet. I said, how is anybody quiet? Ronnie James Dio is just coming in. I said, I go to the South Park episode, so I'm hoping that not we got young listeners. But this is exactly what I said. I said, can I introduce you, Ronnie, to the level you need to be introduced? Because I said, as a kid, you were my rock and roll hero. I said, everybody shut up and welcome to the room, Ronnie fucking James Dio, the king of heavy metal, the one and only.
Oh, hell yeah.
And Ronnie was laughing. And, I mean, we still laugh about it. It's just funny. But, like, that was the influence that Dio had in my life of music was that.
Hey, Kevin, we were talking about some of our favorite bands from the past that's local. And Jalam and Jason Lane were two of them. Well, I guess you consider it one. So other than the Headhunters, did you have a local band that you really love to see or listen to?
Yeah, let me name a couple of them, because if you ever do a thing about that, we have to have them in there because they were really influential in this area. Like in Superfudge, I mean, you gotta have Superfudge.
Oh, of course.
I mean,
Absolutely, yes.
it's gotta have that. Let me see who else. Charlie had a band back in the day called Crier. They done a bunch of cool. It was older. How about a band, Daddy Longlegs or 3035? We can't never forget about those bands. Let me see what Tail Dragger.
Oh, Tail Dragger. Oh,
we can't forget about Tail Dragger, man. Let me think of.
I did, and I'm
more.
sorry, guys.
Tail Dragger. Who else did I say today? I thought of them today when I was out. I'd have to ask Todd Coop the name of that band that he was in, and this was neat. Like, I'm a kid coming to one of my first concerts, because back we just didn't get to go a lot back then as a kid. There wasn't stuff to go, and so my mom dropped me off at the plaza, and here's Todd Coop holding up a Flying V playing Eddie Van Halen and Atomic Punk and all that stuff. I was like, dude, it's fucking great. Like, this is amazing. But that kind of stuff and that vibe. Hey, I'm gonna tell you another band that was always local that I really liked too. I just thought they were rocking, man, for what they were doing. Willow Shade.
Oh,
yes.
I never went to one of their shows and left sad.
No.
I mean, like, dude, I was ready to rock.
Oh yeah.
Willow Shade, man, they had it together.
They were just a fun band. I mean, flat out,
Dude,
they were fun.
The first song, like actual song that I ever had as a ringtone was "Until We Meet Again" by Willow Shade.
Oh.
Christian wrote it.
Yeah.
I remember they opened up for Blackstone Cherry at one of the Toys for Tots shows one year, and I was talking Christian. I said, "Dude, look what I have as my ringtone," and I played it for him, and he goes, "Dude, I wrote that." I said, "Really?" He's like, "Do you want to know what it was about?" I said, "Sure." It's like, "It's about a girl." Like, oh, okay.
If anybody would like to know what that band sounds like, they still have a page up on Reverb Nation. So go to Reverb Nation and look up Willow Shade, 2 separate words.
Dude, let me
Shade.
tell you, Corbin Burke is a little John Fred Young. Like, that dude can hammer on the drums. And then, of course, Tyler, my cousin, Chris Robertson's brother, Tyler, he was the bass player. Yeah, Willow Shade was fantastic. They definitely need, now that I've heard that Corbin is kind of away from another band, Kiss Kiss Bang, who's really good themselves.
Yeah, they play.
Really
They used to play regular at Tidball's.
Yeah, I'm really hoping for a Willow Shade reunion because, I mean, that was lightning.
Yes.
Love them.
Oh, very much.
There was Southern Thunder, which was Hoss Cat's band. Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, Willow Shade. If you've never heard them or heard of them, definitely look them up on Reverb Nation.
And I think they got a. I think there are actually a couple YouTubes. I can't remember if they're actual videos of a performance or if it was just audio. I swear I've looked up Willow Shade on YouTube. Look them up on there too. You might be able to find something special.
I need to look to see if I still have the video I took of them at Edmonton's Bicentennial. They opened up for Blackstone Cherry. I had a great video of them. Tyler spit on me on purpose. And it landed. Well, he drank some water and spit it out, and he aimed right at my camera lens. And
I'll tell you a fun show too. Don't want to cut you off. I'm fixing to go in here and do some computer work, but this is great. Blackstone Cherry's. I don't know if y'all really like Kill Switch Engage. It's one of my favorite bands.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, I love my Kill Switch Engage. So like, we're at this festival, and like, I've listened to a little bit of Kill Switch Engage, and I was talking to the guitar player, and long story short, he was like, "What?" We were talking about Dio and stuff, and I don't know how this got around me, but I did not know that they were covering a Dio song.
Huh.
He said, "Dude, I got a surprise for you." So anyway, during that concert, he said, "When this gets closer to the end of the set, just come on up on stage."
oh wow,
So I got up on stage. He had a Superman outfit on. Superman. And that dude played Holy Diver in such a way that I'm like, I just wanted to lay on my back on the stage.
Oh, and just take it in.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh.
That's right, because he took that song and tribute it away. I've never heard anybody play it so fluidly and in their own style like they did it. And dude, I talked about that for 2 weeks over. I was like, I ain't never seen nothing like it. The Kill Switch, they had an energy, and their vocalist was so intense that, like, I don't remember a lot of festivals that were as tense as probably theirs and with Black Sun Cherry, but when them two bands got together, dude, it was crazy.
Oh, I can imagine. I can just imagine. Oh my god.
Let me tell you, speaking of Chris, Chris shocked me. He was playing with his dad's band at the Spillway in Bowling Green one night, and me and Cody, who was in here earlier, we were talking, and I got to talking about Dave Grohl because I'm a big Foo Fighters fan. And Chris comes out to smoke, and I said, Chris, have you ever gotten to meet Dave Grohl? And he takes a puff off a cigarette, and he's like, no. He said, never been much of a Foo fan. He said, I was more of a Nirvana guy. I'm a Kurt Cobain guy. And he was like, it's not that I don't like the Foo Fighters. They just don't have the same attitude as Nirvana. And I was like, okay. And he goes, well, I'll tell you who I did get to meet. And he got real excited. And I said, who? And he's like, Wiz fucking Khalifa. I was like, wait a minute. What? I was really shocked.
Oh my God, I gotta tell you this one since you said that. You know, I don't know, what is a world tour? It's what it is. It's touring some places maybe that dazzle. Maybe it could not dazzle, but still have the fans. But anyway, we're at this club. And the club itself looks pretty good. And it gets time to take a bath. And I was like, Ben, it looks rough in here. He said, what you mean, brother? I was like, they got names on the walls. You know, people sign things, and that lets you know which bands has been here, who's doing this, who's doing that. Anyway, this is so funny. I go to open the door to go in there and take a bath, and there's one name on that wall. Once I seen it, I just looked at it. I shut the door. I went right back, and I said, you got any extra flip-flops or anything back there? And I opened the door and looked at the first name, and it was right at my eye level. And it said G.G. Allen.
No. G.G. Allen and the Murder Oh, my God.
In the Murder Junkies. And I said, G.G. Allen and the Murder Junkies has rocked this club. I'm going to need to go back here. Yeah. And I said, get my flip-flops on because I don't want to step on something on this floor in here. And like, for a minute, it took everybody, they were like, what is that? And I had to show a couple people what G.G. Allen was, and they were like, oh, my God, G.G. Allen. I was like, for the music people that don't know G.G. Allen, you'll just have to look it up.
Yeah, 100%. Look it up. YouTube, there's a documentary about G.G. Allen. You can watch it. I did watch it on YouTube. Please watch it. It's it'll change your life.
It'll make you look at music in a whole new light.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I ain't kidding, dude. I asked that club owner, I said, is that for real? And he was like, yes, sir. He said, that's why we never painted our stuff over that wall. He said, I looked at it, opened that door, and I just happened to catch it, because I read things, and it said, G.G. Allen and the Murder Junkies. And I was like, G.G. Allen really write that? And he was like, yes, he did.
I tell you why. They say that a lot of times bands, musicians, they'll leave a little bit of themselves out on the stage at the end of every show. He literally did.
Yeah. And all I could say this and not tell you what it is, but all orifices.
Yeah.
It's all on the stage, guaranteed. And I don't think the band ever finished one show that somebody didn't get arrested or hurt.
And I know everybody's thinking everyone's thinking that Kevin's exaggerating. No, he's not. He is not.
I'm not even touching the surface. I'm not scratching it.
Mm-mm.
But
well, Kevin, I know you said you got to go and do some computer work before you go. You said earlier that that you're not that great of a guitarist or something along those lines, dude. I'm gonna post it later, Matt.
Yeah.
And if you want to download it and link it up however you want to link it up, I got a video of this man, not only in the studio, but at Riblickers, absolutely shredding. He looks like he's having a seizure.
Well, I tell you
I
what.
go-
It's incredible.
Well, with your permission, Kevin, I'll tell you what. I'll rip the audio from it and I'll tack it onto the end of the podcast.
No, you need a video.
Need
No,
a
no, no.
video.
You have to understand. No, you have to
Hey,
understand.
man, it's
Anybody,
fine. I can do it. Nothing embarrasses me anymore, so I'm like, hey, it's
Oh
fun.
no, it's
Anytime
nothing
we're
to be
creating
embarrassed
music, I
about.
love
Like
it.
he's having like an
No.
out of body experience, just killing this guitar.
Hey, sometimes
Look,
it
I
happens.
think there's a part that music just overwrites your brain, and like
Ah,
at that point, your brain gives way, and it's just your brain's playing for everybody, and your fingers. There ain't no thinking behind it anymore.
you
Well,
know,
it's one
all
of those
I'm-
experiences I sure as hell will never forget. It was awesome.
I've always wanted
all
to
I'm
learn how to play
saying-
guitar. I've got 2 left thumbs. It'll never happen. But I can say, just as a music fan itself, I completely agree. You can completely lose yourself in any form of music.
all I'm saying is that anybody that can play Angus Young the way he does and create his own music the way he does is amazing. Kevin, you are one of the best.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. And like, I always want to thank my friends that kind of taught me, because I'm kind of just represent them sometimes. It's like I just wanted to be like them. They were the coolest things going. And I was like, most people were running around and hocus pocus. I was like, dude, we were wanted the bands. I was like, nothing in high school. I wanted to do more than rock. And it didn't take me but like a minute when Ben was like, dude, you going to board this bus and go to Europe with us? I was like, yes. Because I'm like, I'm going to go see what this is all really about. Because he told me this. He said, dude, it'll change your life. It'll make you look at life different when you come back. And I said, that's what I need. I want to see everything. And I've seen it. So I'm like, dude, music's really powerful. I think that maybe the difference to me, and last I'll sum it up with this. 2 things that one stuck out to me in my life. Kenny always used to say this at the music store. He said, to reach the impossible, you must do the absurd. And he means not be afraid to take that risk. And when I got on the plane with Chris and the guys and we were going to Europe, I remember Chris asked me, he was like, you could be anybody you wanted to be. You could change your name if that's what you want to do. Or you could, and he was like, what do you think you want this tour to be to you? And at that time, I really had no concept of it. And I'm like, I don't know, just go jam and have a good time and change the world with music. And then we got back and we was pulling back into Glasgow, and Chris remembered and asked me, he was like, now that you went all these places, he was like, what would you think now? Would you say the same thing that you did as you boarded the plane? What's your what do you think now? And I said, look, anything, whatever you do in life, you got to trade a piece of life for it, So I'm like, if you was really wanting to be that great musician, you couldn't be out skiing and hiking on the weekends. You'd be hitting that guitar and learning. So I was like, the people that really shed that time and put that in it, I can see them, I can hear them, I feel them. And I'm like, those are what's real. And I was like, I had written it on the back of the book, and I was trying to remember how I quoted it to him, and it was really funny, but it was right. I said, you can change any amount of life for whatever you're wanting to do, but do it, change it. Those people are the ones that change the world, not the ones that sit around thinking about it. The ones
Absolutely.
I'll give it up. I'll change. And I'll tell you what, the touring with them helped me change, because people say this sometimes. Everybody gets stuck sometimes in a genre or life that, like, he grew up listening to Led Zeppelin. I grew up listening to Dio. You grew up listening to Nirvana. We all get stuck, and I think touring with all those other bands helped me get unstuck for a while to create new music in new ways, and maybe leave behind some of the things that I thought were all set in stone, and maybe they're not. And that's because music changed. And I was watching a documentary once on Garth Brooks and George Strait, and George Strait said this. He said, I used to listen to Waylon and them. He said I thought they'd never get old. He said there was a day that they were playing on the radio. I mean, playing songs on the radio, and he said I didn't hear them on there no more. And he said it wasn't long down the road. He said I got to notice I didn't hear. So he said music changed, and he said country music grew and changed. So rock and roll is going to grow and change. And even though I wasn't a super fan of Nirvana, I respect them. I'm glad that they came and changed music and took it on a whole new place, because that way it kept growing. And then I got to enjoy bands that came after that I really loved. Like maybe like I like Dave Grohl. I like Rage Against the Machine. I love this new. They were just really exciting. Shinedown. I became friends with them. I love Shinedown.
Absolutely.
They're awesome. I got to meet them at the is it the Tennessee Theater in Knoxville, I believe is what it's called.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was wearing a Blackstone Cherry shirt, and I got starstruck. I have met so many different actors. They never fazed me. Shinedown, I had to do like a triple take. And I never will forget Barry, their drummer, pointed at my shirt and said, "Awesome band." I said thank you like I'm in the damn band.
Well, here's a funny one. When I met Dio, and like he's my hero, I didn't say anything. Ben was like, "Dude, are you ever gonna say anything?" He's like, he's waiting for you to ask him a question, and I was just listening, and I was starstruck. So funny, I was like, "Ronnie, just tell us about some of the old stuff and the old times." And so when Ronnie started telling all these stories, it like you could hear a pin drop, and he was telling you the true things of Rainbow and Black Sabbath and everything. And Ronnie it was funny, man. He was really enlightening. Ronnie was really super intelligent, fast talking, and quick thinking, and he would tell you what he really thought. And I loved it. I'll never forget that show. Hey, man, if y'all going to do another one sometime, I'll have to call in. I can tell you some funny stories and other things, some of these older bands and some of the greatest shows in Glasgow and stuff growing up, like Summerfest, or when Kenny used to have the things at the fair, when the Headhunters was doing festivals, or they were just some of the greatest times.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back on, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we're gonna delve much deeper into the SOKy music scene eventually. So yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
Yes, very much. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much for coming on here tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right, man. Hey, it was great talking to y'all, and I'll catch you on the far side.
All right,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Hey,
Have a good one.
Kevin, man.
Keep on
See
dazzling.
you.
Well, that was awesome.
Let me just say it.
I stopped breathing halfway through it.
Yeah, I was going to say, let me just say to our listeners, while I know Kevin and I've spoken to him personally on several different occasions, being able to sit here and talk about music with him may be a lifelong dream come true. I have basically texted anybody that I know that knows who he is and said, "Hey, I am currently sitting here talking about music with Kevin Grimes."
I think Tiny, you have crossed something off your bucket list.
Absolutely, I'm super excited if we can get him back on for another show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Kevin's great. I thought like me and Matt. I was talking to Matt earlier today on the phone, and I was like, I was at work because I'm one of the essentials.
Yeah. They used to say essentials are things like, Cheetos and stuff like that. But it's good to see that us essential people are on par with Cheetos and snacks.
Right. Well, I got to thinking at work. I was like, well, tonight, we're recording the favorite local bands from past and present episode. I was like, well, we already get somebody on. So my first thought was Ben Wells, which is Kevin's cousin, the rhythm guitarist for Blackstone Cherry. Well, him and Chris swap out lead, I guess. Well, I said I guess they definitely do.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out. So I was like, okay, well, Kevin, because I know Kevin, and he's got to be bored with all this
With the corona.
Yeah. And
Right.
sure enough, when I called him, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm bored as shit." I knew it. And then thank him for coming on too. He had to take care of the little one whose name is Cash. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that. Little boy's name after Johnny Cash.
Nice.
But yeah, he had to take care of him. Brad had to cut out early for his daughter. But yeah, I mean, Kevin's like an encyclopedia. I think the next best thing you can get to a brain like that, no offense to anybody else, would be Greg Martin. Just like the knowledge of just everybody's insight is so unique. And I can't wait for everybody to hear next week's episode with Steve Jr. because he's the same way, just in his own way, you know. Like everybody's perspective and experiences are different, but they're all the same at the same time. It's the weirdest thing.
So I have to ask, just in the sake of the show, we have probably run really long based on our guest. Are we going to stay on and talk about anybody else, or are we going to make this a
I figured we could stay on and talk for a few more minutes. The whole list of bands that I have, we can at least go through and talk about them for just a few minutes. I
would love to.
We were getting into that before some awesome stuff started happening.
Yes, again, let me say thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Really appreciate it.
Yes.
It was definitely very, very exciting for me. So, Matt, if you want to get into some of the other bands.
That's awesome.
Yes, and again, thank you, Cody. And I'll thank you both again at the end of the show, as well as Sir Bradley.
We're definitely going to be hearing more from those guys down the road.
Yeah. So I had created a list of 17, and that's, we'd already covered that. This really wasn't the whole extent of the local music, but I mean, 17 bands over the years that are really good, have been really good. We've got a Grammy Award winning band on this list. We've got one that's just, I mean, they're on fire. We've got an up and coming one that is picking up steam, and we've got some others that we have followed over the years. I'll just start at the top. Let's go ahead and start with Chasing Lane and Geelong. We covered that with Kevin. Thank you, Mr. Dazzler.
Yeah.
Poison Karma. I know Sir Bradley had mentioned this off mic that he wasn't really into them, which I can understand why. They're mainly a cover band, but cover bands usually get a bad rap.
I would just like to say about Poison Karma. I've seen them on multiple occasions. I know Kevin and his wife, who is the lead singer. Kevin Hall and his wife is the lead singer.
Yep.
I know them personally. They are amazing people. They are amazing musicians. But they put their talents more towards doing covers, which is great, and they do a fantastic job. As far as like a local music scene, they are local and they are big on the music scene. But a lot of their stuff is on covers, and they do a fantastic job.
They do. And the reason why I include them higher than, say, like Superfuzz was because there are times when, even though, you want to listen to locals, a lot of times you still want to get that feel of a big famous band. You can't get that with a lot of bands that do covers. I tell you what, if you listen to Poison Karma, check them out on YouTube to some of their covers with like Heart. I've always wanted to see Heart in concert. I'll never be able to see Heart in concert. That's just the way it goes. But the covers they do for bands like that.
I saw Heart in concert.
You suck.
Nobody asked you.
What about Love, y'all?
That's right. That's right. They do. They're amazing. So if cover bands just don't get the love that I feel sometimes they deserve. They always get, they're just considered not as good.
Well, while we're talking about Poison Karma and cover bands, I have to shout out my boys and Uncle Jack, who Kevin Hall also is lead guitar, co-lead guitarist. Chad Loxton, Kenny McGuire, and Jake Ritchie, who's the drummer. If you ever want to go and see the closest thing you can to an authentic 80s show, you got to go see Uncle Jack. They played the Spillway, or they were playing the Spillway fairly often. Probably not now due to the Rona. But if you're into Jackal,
Van Halen.
Whitesnake, Van Halen, Motley Crue. By the way, shout out to Kevin Hall, who does one of the best covers of Eruption
Yes.
that I've ever seen in my
That's
life.
what I was going to say.
Kevin Hall is an amazing guitarist. Poison Karma, Uncle Jack. If you're down for a good time, it may not be original music, but if you're down for a good time, they put on a hell of a show. Go see them.
Exactly. That's why I can, that's why I brought Poison Karma. Now the rest of these on here don't do covers. These are all original bands. Let's see. Next I had Gravel Switch. They've got a couple of albums out, and they do they do an amazing job. They're hard rock. I can understand why people say they're more of I hate to say, cookie cutter is such a harsh term, but they're just a straight up rock band that is more attuned to what the 90s and 2000s style of rock band, but they are so good.
Yeah, a lot of people may not agree with me. I eventually got to a point, man, because growing up, you hear different types of rock music. You get your classic rock, which, Nirvana is played on the classic rock station now.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Older stuff? Okay, cool. You get
anything nostalgic, 10 years and older, man.
Right. You're,
like this show.
Southern rock. It's soft rock, whatever, alternative. To me, it eventually just became rock music.
Yeah.
Growing up, people used to call, and I'm sure they called themselves, I don't know, My Chemical Romance emo.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, when I got to a certain age and I started really, really listening to their songs, like the lyrics, that's just rock. Like there's so much heart in it.
Oh yeah.
So putting them all in certain genres, to me personally anyway, and a lot of people may not agree with it, I think it's just bull. It's just rock. Like if it's
Alan, talking about My Chemical Romance, they came out at a point in my life where I was still very much putting things in genre.
You're right. Me too.
And I definitely put them in the emo. I don't want to listen to emo rock.
Right.
Genre.
Right.
But going back now and listening to stuff like Helena and some other stuff that they have.
Dude, the Black Parade is epic.
It's really good music. Yeah, it's really good music, and that's why I had said earlier, you can't define music by genre. It's a universal language.
To elaborate on that a little bit of where I was coming from, my dad, when I was growing up, he had the first two Bad Outta Hell albums.
Who doesn't love Meatloaf, by the way?
Right? A lot of people. But I do, and that's what was so crazy to me when I finally grew up and started thinking about it. I was a Meatloaf fan, and wouldn't want to listen to My Chemical Romance because there's a certain sort of stigma of the people who listen to it at school.
Right.
It's stupid. It was ridiculous. So it's both of them's very theatrical. Meatloaf and My Chemical Romance.
Oh yeah.
But they're heavy. Like the lyrics are heavy.
Yeah.
And the music's heavy. So it's just rock.
Yeah.
And let's be honest. At least for me, it's always been a thing for me. If it has a good beat and melody, I'm good with it. If the lyrics are good, I'm good with it.
Exactly. Like I finally.
But if they have both,
I tell you another epiphany I had, and I'm not so big of a fan that I can tell you what he was thinking when he wrote it. But Hunger Strike.
Oh
my God!
Hell.
Hair of the Dog, absolutely.
I've always loved Hunger Strike. Chris Cornell. There's a lyric where it says, I don't mind stealing bread from the mouth of decadence. And I never really understood what that meant until I was watching a VH1 documentary one day, and Vince Neil was talking about, the hair bands of the 80s and how it was all just, just party.
Yeah.
We're not down with the whole Nirvana grunge thing. Who wants to listen to music and be sad? We're going to party and have a good time. And then he goes, it's decadence. And I went, oh, is that what Chris Cornell was saying?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like it clicked. When
yeah.
I heard Vince Neil say that, I was like, Chris Cornell, Hunger Strike is a big FU to the entire 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, basically, yeah.
It was awesome.
Next on my list, I've got, of course, Blackstone Cherry. We've talked about them half the night, too. Plain Jane. Now, this is a band that I don't think got enough recognition while they were around. My buddy Cody was in that band, and they were just a little soft, folky, alternative type of band. But the lyrics that they, put out they were really good. They were really fine lyricists.
Didn't they break up because everybody kind of went their own separate ways?
Well, one moved to Nashville with his new wife, and one of them moved over to. They moved halfway across the U.S. And it's just how it was. And they were really good quote unquote college band, and I use that quote unquote college band because they were just a really good band in general. But I call them college because that's probably the age group that they would have been most popular with. And when they got finished with college, that's when they dispersed.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've mentioned this several times, but there's so much untapped potential in this area.
Yeah,
absolutely,
and not just one single genre of music. We've talked a lot about rock. I mean, I've got plenty of rock on here. Plain Jane, I don't consider rock. Luther, yes, I do.
Matt,
yes.
Can we talk about Feckless?
Yes, we're almost there.
Okay, all right, cool.
Otis, which of course we've got the interview next week with Steve Jr. that has already been recorded, so you'll get to enjoy that next week. Blues.
Let me just say that Otis is going to blow up.
They are picking up steam. If it wasn't for the Rona,
yes.
And you know what? Maybe this is what they needed to recharge some of their batteries and come back strong once this is very done and over with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe. Yeah, they had to cancel some dates.
Yep.
I mean, Otis is amazing, and they are going to be big.
Yes.
Follow.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Please
There's
check
no
them
doubt.
out. They're a great live band too. Check them out on YouTube. Just Otis Music. Just watch a couple of their videos. They're so good.
Yeah, I don't remember everything that I said personally in the episode with Steve Jr., which is next week.
Yes.
But yeah, I have nothing but faith in those guys. They got a good head on their collective shoulders. and
if they don't blow up, I don't have faith in music anymore.
And they're in it for the right thing. You can usually tell
they are, and without
there's a great line in the Blackstone Cherry song. You can't judge a book by looking at the cover, but your gut instinct, just looking at somebody and telling how they talk and how they act, you can tell who's in it for the right thing, the love for it.
And the audience will definitely get
those guys
with the interview next week.
Hey, Alan, you can tell the people that are in it for the money because all they do is write hooks.
Yeah,
somebody sing them
absolutely,
37 times.
Absolutely. And that's another thing I respect Blackstone Cherry so much for was the record label at the time. That's what they wanted. I know I've seen many interviews where they were like, "We're not playing for radio anymore. I mean, if radio wants to play us, please, by all means, God bless you, play us." But that's not their style.
Yeah,
they write about what they know.
If you're a true musician, money is the last thing on your mind. You're doing it.
I mean, it's nice.
I mean, of course, it's always nice. But you're doing it because.
Right. There's a great line in "Throw Mama from the Train," where Rob Reiner says to Billy Crystal, "Fine, you go be an artist. Let the rest of the world make a living."
That's right.
Like
Yep.
that's how the suit and ties operate, and it's ridiculous. But anyway, go ahead.
Next on the list is Colin Grant Adams. I don't know if anybody's heard of who that is.
Yeah.
He plays. He's a local Celtic music musician. He plays at the Glasgow Highland Games every single year, and he also does a little bit of smaller touring to some of the other Celtic festivals every summer. But that man can. It's just when you go to say like the Highland Games. Sometimes you just in the hot sun, in the very hot sun, you just kind of want to kick back and relax for a few minutes. No matter where you are, if you sit down, you'll hear that man playing, and it just relaxes you and makes the day go by so nice.
Absolutely.
Yes. Next was Feckless Feardirg. No, I did not stutter. I did not have a brain aneurysm. I did not have a stroke.
Nope.
That
He
is
did
their
not.
name. Feckless Feardirg is also they sort of consider them a Celtic rock band almost. They dabble into the rock. They're not fully a Celtic rock band. They dabble into the rock. But man, that's a very talented local band that is in the Celtic music genre. They are blowing up.
And I have a friend who's in that band. His name is Rusty. I won't reveal his last name for purpose. But
You want to be invited back to their shows. I get it.
yeah. Well, no. But honestly, they played Dublin's in Bowling Green forever, and I think the band in Dublin's had a falling out. I don't know the full extent of that, but they did play Dublin's, which is an Irish pub, or advertised as an Irish pub.
It's a modern day Irish pub. If you want to talk about an actual Irish pub, go to Cliffs of Moher, which they feature this.
Yeah.
They featured this other band that's on my list after that, Def Leprechaun.
Oh, by the way, Matt, don't let me forget when you finish up your list. I've got one bonus that I want to bring up.
A bonus, perfect. Sounds good.
Right.
Def Leprechaun is
Feckless.
It'll tug on the nostalgic heartstrings for sure.
Feckless, go see them when they play again, please, because they're amazing.
and if you just want to hear just an Irish folk band, come on, Def Leprechaun. They're very humorous. They tell stories, and they're very funny.
They're amazing. I listened to some of their stuff today. It's great stuff. I suggest going and finding.
Rufus Huff. We mentioned them earlier. A band that Greg Martin had played with, I say a time or two because he tends to play with them, especially live, because Greg Martin likes to frequent different places that have music. That's his life.
It's a blues band, and they're amazing.
Blues and country, yeah.
I've seen them a few times. My wife or ex-wife, as you were, whatever, used to do photography for them, and she went to Memphis with them a few years ago to do some photography for shows they were doing. Amazing stuff. Greg Martin is an amazing guitarist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
I got to see them. I've seen them a couple of times, but I remember the first time I saw them was at the now defunct Kentucky Repertory Theater in Horse Cave, Kentucky. And I was there with a friend of mine who was another acting buddy. His dad was a huge Rufus Huff fan. I'm like, who's Rufus Huff? He's like, oh, it's a band that Greg Martin's in. I was like, no, sir, that would be
The Headhunters. Correction.
He's like, yeah, but there's also another band he's in. So I go, and all I remember is how great they sounded, and the lead singer wore shades.
The whole time.
Pitch black shades.
Yep.
It was like, he is wearing shades indoors. He is a cool person. But they sounded so amazing in that. I mean, in such a small setting. The music that they were just pumping out was incredible. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the big thing about most of these guys. You have to understand that when we see them or when we saw them at that point, they weren't playing to arenas. They were playing to clubs that held maybe 200 people at max. So you got to figure out how to make the sound work in that versus an arena, you know.
And they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They all kind of came up on these small circuits. So.
Next, I've got Cage the Elephant, which I'm sure anybody who's listening to this podcast or anybody in the world has heard of Cage the Elephant because they are a Grammy Award winning band. They won a Grammy this past year at the Grammys. Oh my gosh. I was very excited for them, not just because we've seen them, we've met them. It's, which by met them, I don't mean like we know them, we're friends with them or anything like that. I mean, me and Tiny have gone and seen them in concert, met them after the show. God, how many years ago was that?
Okay, so I met Anna in 2004, which is when she graduated. So I would say 2004 to 2005.
Yeah.
We probably went to State Street Pub and watched a band called Liquid Twilight, which was Cage the Elephant before they were Cage the Elephant.
Yes.
And my wife actually went to high school with like 3 of the members. So they're awesome. They're awesome dudes. They are very down to earth. And they got their big break with the game called Borderlands with a song called Ain't No Rest,
for the Wicked. Because money don't grow on trees.
Yeah. But, you know, awesome cats, man. They were always down to talk and, you know, they were never.
What was
they were never
Tiny?
like. What's that?
Like a year or two ago, they came back and played WKU.
Yeah, they do these surprise concerts every now and then.
Not to put it out to everybody, but to put it out to everybody, they usually do a secret show at Tidball's every year because Tidball's was where they basically made their name. Here in Bowling Green.
And every single one of these bands that we have mentioned has played at Tidball's. Every one.
Yeah. I mean, that was basically the place to play. It has been forever.
Still is. If you want to cut your teeth in the local music scene, you go to Tidball's.
God bless Tidball's.
Do you remember Waba?
Yeah. Waba's, yes.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the restaurant that Robert Irvine couldn't even save?
Funny story. While we're talking about that, I went to Waba's and saw. It's not necessarily a local band. I think they're more out of Nashville at this point, but a band called TNA. I went and saw them back in 2013 at Waba's, and they rock too. So
yeah, I was into TNA for most of my formidable years.
I'm just saying they were pretty
most.
They were pretty badass.
Yeah.
And you're a funny man,
Matt. Next, I have Despite the Fallen. Now, Sir Bradley, before he was jumped off mic, before we even started recording, Despite the Fallen and Chasing Lane were two of the bands that Sir Bradley told us that he never really followed the local music scene. So I sent him, here's what I've listened to. And he actually had on, ones that he liked and didn't like. The ones that stood out for him, one of them was Despite the Fallen. He really liked them.
Yeah.
And of course, Chasing Lane and Jalam.
I think he gave them an 8 out of 10.
Yes, an 8 out of 10. Now,
so,
they're a heavier band, but they're ones that they catch you in the right mood, as in like you just had a really long night, you want to have a beer and you just kind of want to just yell your anger out. Despite the Fallen is a good band for that.
I was always a fan.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, here's one that is probably more near and dear to Tiny and his memories over the years. Now, I included them because I thoroughly enjoyed their music and still do because they get back together every now and then and play different shows. Sixth Floor, as in SIXTH, the number
Oh,
six,
man.
Sixth Floor.
I
let me
put,
just-
I
No,
sort
go
of
ahead,
kind of
Alan.
put, I sort of kind of put my foot in my mouth when I got to meet John King, without realizing it. But
I did
he-
not
he-
include John King and the Mud River Band into this because I haven't listened to that band at all. But he does have another
They're
band called
also-
John King and the Mud River Band. But Sixth Floor is it.
Yeah,
They're
he's
also
the
they're also amazing. Jason Simpson, who I used to work with, plays in the band as well. So they're doing real well.
John King, lead vocals. He was also lead guitar, right?
I think so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Or they at
on
least swapped
Sixth
out?
Floor, at least. Yeah, on Sixth Floor. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Blackstone Cherry used to put on their Toys for Tots shows every year for a while at the Cave City Convention Center, and Sixth Floor opened up for them once or twice. One year, I was actually Hallscat, who I mentioned earlier, from Southern Thunder. He was working security. He's a cousin of mine on the other side of my family. He's not, as far as I know, he's not related to Chris. But anyway, he was working security, and I was hanging out with him the whole night. So I was backstage, and Eighth Nation was the opening act, and then it was Sixth Floor, and then Blackstone Cherry. So I'm standing next to John King backstage while he's tuning his guitar, waiting for Eighth Nation to be done. And I go, "So how long have you guys been a band?" And he thought about it for a second, and he was like, 12 years? And I said, "Oh, wow, and you never got signed?"
Oh my God! Really?
Well, I was young and dumb.
Boo.
And that's not how it meant. That's not how.
Right?
It was
No. Yeah.
You know what,
But-
listeners?
and I
That
think he
offends me so much that I'm going to email the Deadpan Studio email about it.
Well, he understood. He was very cool about it. He kind of grinned and he just kept tuning his guitar, and he was like, "Nope." And he looked up at me and he said, "Came close."
Oh yeah, they were.
But the reason
They
why
were-
I ask is because they're so damn good.
Yeah. It
Um,
really is a shame that somebody as talented as John King himself, if not the bands he's ever been with,
Yep.
has not been signed to any label at all. It
Yeah.
is a crying shame. He's
If
got
he
the voice,
ever-
he's got the personality, he's got the talent, he's got the writing prowess, he's a great musician. He's got it all, except he just does not have the break.
If he was to click on this link and listen to this, actually, I got to thank him. Kevin was talking about influences, and meeting awesome people and just having memories and you carry it with you to the next person, right?
Yes.
So my little brother Aaron, the song I was talking about earlier that we did for United, he actually bass player. Kevin, we're gonna have to talk about that at another time. Kevin absolutely loved playing with him, but when Aaron was really, really young and he really hadn't picked up an instrument, that same weekend during the Toys for Tots shows, he asked John if he could have a Sixth Floor wristband. They were like fuzzy black wristband, and John told him sure. Well, he said, "Come back tomorrow. I'll have you one." Aaron didn't forget about it, so we go behind the convention center where John is sitting with believe it was his wife, and we walk up to the door and we're like, "Hey, we're here for the wristband." Pretty much. Well, John takes the one off of his wrist and gives it to Aaron. And,
No,
and Aaron just thought that was the coolest thing. So if John happens to listen to this, thank you very much. And I didn't mean the way that question came across. It's just that they were so cool.
What he's saying is that he's sorry and you're the bee's knees.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, John has always been really cool to me. I've seen him at quite a few shows locally. Nice guy. amazing musician. Especially, I love Sixth Floor because it was a time in my life that a lot of their songs kind of hit home, and they weren't harder, but they were a little harder than most bands. And, Supergrass, City Boy,
Face Down.
Yeah, I mean, like all that stuff was amazing. If you're listening, you guys are amazing. I would love to see a reunion. Please make that happen.
Yeah, I was very happy where he, not too long ago, he was mentioning on Facebook how he's got USB drives of the entire Sixth Floor discography. And I think they were going to like re-record some stuff at one point. So that would be really cool.
Yeah, I know Reverb Nation has a lot of stuff, especially a lot of stuff from my youth that I really enjoyed listening to earlier.
Yeah, Sixth Floor's fantastic.
Very much. And we've only got a couple more on here because we've already covered Jalum and Chasing Lane. The next one I have I thoroughly enjoyed because the first time I saw them and heard about them was actually through my mom's salon because the drummer, Hoscat, his wife, worked for my mother's salon. Dead Dick Hammer.
Okay.
Who doesn't like
I'll let
the
Donnie
Hammer?
take that one.
So I have some stories about Dead Dick Hammer because the drummer for Dead Dick Hammer happened to be someone I'm related to, and I'm not sure if he would want his name related to it, so I won't say his name, but the drummer for Dead Dick Hammer is not only related to me, but a pretty close friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a particular Halloween about, it's probably been about 7 or 8 years ago now. I went to Richard Hammer, who is the lead singer for Dead Dick Hammer. I went to his house and we had a bonfire Halloween party. And one of the best things that I remember about that party is we sat outside drinking moonshine with John Dugan. Do you guys know who John Dugan is?
Yep.
So for the listeners who don't know, John Dugan played Grandpa in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and 3D remake.
Yep.
So it was very interesting for me to get to meet somebody who was actually in a feature film that made several $1 million, and to be able to talk music with him, because that's what we did. We sat around and we drank moonshine and talked music around a bonfire, which was really amazing.
Yeah, lucky for you, the last time I got starstruck was when I went to an acting audition and saw Flash, as in like Flash Gordon, the guy that played Flash.
Flash. Ah.
Yeah, ruined that audition. I'm supposed to do a monologue from Rocky Balboa, and I get past about a minute into it, and I just lose everything because I can't keep my eye off that dude. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my God! I see. I'm thinking back on it, and it's already tripping me up.
Yeah, but Dead Dick Hammer, they were, let's say, the best way I can describe them is rockabilly.
They're
Like-
rockabilly mixed with the old 50s Universal monster movies and TV shows.
They definitely had a gimmick, and not that the music they put out wasn't great, but the music they put out was definitely
Different.
very gimmicky.
It
It
was.
was gimmicky. It was, we're based on this setup, and this is what we're going to do with this setup. And they did it well, and the music was good, but it's not for everybody. It's definitely a gimmick.
Yeah, absolutely. The only reason I mentioned them was just because the gimmick itself. I thought it was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed their music because it caught me just right. That almost a psychedelic Monster Mash type of music, and I don't know. It was fun. It was a
Oh,
lot of fun.
absolutely. Also, just a quick piece of information. They were a trio, so it was a guitar player who played. He played guitar. He did lead vocal. His wife did bass, and then there was another guy that did drums, and that was it. It was guitar, bass, and drums. There was no, like, the sound that they put out was very amazing based on the fact it was only 3 people.
Now the last one I've got on here is Ivory Picture Story. They're a newer up and comer. I know this is supposed to be like local music from the past, but I some of them we've covered that we've listened to before up to today. But Ivory Picture Story is actually a newer band that I hope takes off, because they tour quite extensively around the Nashville area and the southern U.S., but they are punk rock, and I don't mean like punk rock, the genre. I mean they're punk and rock. Some of their songs are punk, some of their songs are rock, and they tell a story. The lead singer is an amazing vocalist, and they're a band that you wouldn't think that you'd find out of anywhere other than 1980s downtown LA on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah, I listened to the stuff today, and they are impressive. It's definitely retro. I don't know if I want to say retro in that aspect, but it's definitely more of a nostalgic retro feel than it is a modern day rock type of.
The reason I got into them was because they performed at a local bar near us called The Dive. That they posted some music of theirs online. They live streamed it, and I listened to it, and it was outstanding. Now, the music that they've got online is a little older than what they do now. So if you YouTube them, Ivory Picture Story, if you check them out or go to The Dive on Facebook and watch some of the videos that they've got linked up on there, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy some of their newer music. And they've had a couple of changes of band members since the music was put out on Reverb Nation.
I really enjoyed it, man. I really liked it.
Yeah, really good. Alan, did you get a chance to take a listen to them?
Not yet, but I definitely will.
Yeah, I think you're in for a treat. Now, it could just be when I experienced their music. Like I said, it was during a live stream that I kind of got caught up in the show too. So maybe that could be part of it, where I enjoyed it's like listening to Kiss. They're more of a live band than they are just sitting around listening to their music band. Email me, listeners. I know I'm going to get some hate. Email me. Sometimes I say things just to get a rise.
Wait, what? Are you telling me that Kiss put on a better concert in person than they did on their studio albums? Because
no, never.
Three or 4 riffs, and oh wait, I'll stop.
Well, no, maybe that's what it was. I got caught up into their show. It was high energy. The band was talented. They really engaged the audience. That could be what it is. But I really enjoyed it. And I include them on my list. But that's all I've got. Now I know I've got a few more off the top of my head, but I'm hoping Alan will mention one of them. And Tiny, do you have any?
Well, first of all, did we talk about Luther at all?
We touched on Luther. They were really a heavier band. Man, they're good. Go ahead, Tiny, if you want to talk some more about them.
Luther has been around for a very, very, very long time, and they took a hiatus. And then they came back in the mid-2000s, somewhere around there, probably closer to the mid-2010s, maybe. But yes, they are a heavy band. They are really great with lyrical, what they do lyrically. They're heavy, but they're not too heavy. They're not like death metal heavy.
No,
but they're heavy.
I they're about as heavy now. I don't. Of course, they've got a different lyrical style, singing style, but they're about as heavy as Kill Switch Engage. To me, anyway, they get that really good hard rock. I say hard rock, and I'm old. Hard rock and riff. They go into that really awesome riff, and they've got the singer is just. He's got a gravelly voice, but I'm sorry. We're 2 hours into this, so I start thinking about this music, and I trail off, starting to hear it in my head, and I start trailing off.
This may be the longest episode so far.
So far. I've got so much music in my head from what we've talked about tonight. That's all I'm hearing right now.
Right.
The only thing I can really think about is we talked about Jalam and we talked about Blackstone Cherry. I remember back in the summer of, I don't know, I think it was the summer of 2000. I want to say it was the summer of 2000. I watched Blackstone Cherry open for Jalam at the Armory in Glasgow.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And
really
I,
cool to see.
well, and I remember thinking, and this is the funny thing, Alan, and you may have read the same article that I did, but I remember thinking that seeing Blackstone Cherry, I was like, you know what? These guys are okay.
Either okay.
Well,
I know what you mean, though.
well, just listen. I remember thinking, yeah, these guys are okay. They're not polished. They're not, their stage show isn't great. But I also remember thinking, man, they got some pretty decent tracks, and they're gonna be good if they continue.
Yeah, I wanted to throw this in when Kevin, I think it was no, it might have been Matt talking about country.
Mm-hmm.
You think of Kentucky, you think of country. Blackstone Cherry had a track on their demo, rock and roll tape. The real fans know what I'm talking about, because that managed to get into the hands all over. But there's a track on there. I think it's called Redneck Punk, and I haven't gotten to. I don't want to put words in their mouth or talk to. I haven't gotten to speak to any of them about that song, but there's a line that Chris says, "A country guitar is all that you like. Well, sorry, but you ain't gonna get that tonight. You're always saying we might as well quit, but we ain't giving up. Now ain't that a bitch?" Fast forward all these years later, man. And sure, I think I mentioned it on the episode with Steve where I had I'm not going to say his name, but I had a school teacher who told me and another friend, Shelby Miles, great. Now, this is after their second album. Me and Shelby was really excited about it. We loved it. We were showing his teacher who also played guitar, and he's changed his tune since then. But his exact words was, "Yeah, they're pretty good, but he's not going to have his voice in 5 years." How long's it been?
Well,
Yeah.
You know what, Alan? You know what's really funny about that?
What's that?
I read an article. It's probably been a couple months back that we're talking about Blackstone Cherry, and one of the first big live shows they did was playing at the State Fair in Louisville.
Yep.
And when they played that show, they had, I don't know if it was a producer or what, but somebody came up to them and said, "Hey, you guys are doing great, but you're not polished. You don't have the stage energy. You don't have the presence. You got to step that up." And from the article that I read was one of the big things that caused them to have the presence that they do now. But when I seen them playing at the Glasgow Armory, one of the things I said was, these guys are good, but they got to step it up. They're not, And I'm pretty sure when I seen them, that it was really, literally one of the first shows they ever played.
That's awesome.
Which is really kind of funny, but I remember thinking, these guys have it if they can, step up some stuff and do other things, which they did, obviously.
Obviously. And another thing too that I'm really happy for them about is they're still it's still the same guys.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Which is almost unheard of.
Dude, I went to. I know you know Ben.
Mm-hmm.
I went to high school. I was in the same graduating class with Abby, his sister. Abby
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know her too well. I don't know Ben too well either.
Well, I went
more than Abby.
Yeah, well, I was in the same graduating class as Abby, and Ben was in the class right under me. So I actually remember working at the Advantage station, which Glasgow High School put out about 20 years ago. I don't know if they're still doing that, but it's been a while.
It's been a minute.
But I remember working with Ben as a videographer and doing like local ads for the community.
Well, that's awesome. I never was on stage with it. He's a little older than I am. But me and Ben actually share something from our past. He was an old KRT guy, way before, he was a part of Blackstone Cherry. And KRT was the Kentucky Repertory Theater that I believe I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I did. We were talking about Rufus Huff. So that was a pretty cool talking point when I finally got to meet him and talk to him for a bit. I remember, here's a little fun fact. When they did the music video for Bad Habit, the video that everybody saw was not the original. That there were some things that went on that they needed to reshoot some things. I was in the original cut, which unfortunately never saw the light of day.
That's how my life works.
Yeah.
But I got to, Ben does these high kicks on stage. It's almost like, Angus Young, you're gonna see him do the Chuck Berry walk. You're gonna see him with his band-aids on his knees. Well, you're gonna see Ben Wells do a high kick more than once. So they made it a joke in the video where it was the same thing. They go back in time and play the against bunch of 80s hair bands. Well, I'm in the front row wearing a Batman shirt, which is actually 1 year before, or I'm sorry, 1 year after the date that's in the video, by the way. That might be another reason why I didn't make the cut. There's a lot of time travel going on. But anyway, I'm wearing a Batman cutoff, and Ben kicks right in front of my face. Like I could almost stick my tongue out and touch his shoe. And my reaction is, oh my God, this is awful. Turn around and walk away. and I remember Chris broke. Like, as soon as it happened, Chris started busting the gut, and he was like, Alan, he said, that look of disgust. Like, he loved it. And then Ben's not paying much attention. He's tuning his guitar, and Ben starts going, was it the kick? Was it the kick? Is that what it was? Was it the kick? And I looked at Ben, and I said, that's that KRT. And he was like, This is a little fun fact.
Dude,
Ben was a theater guy at one point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. Yeah, I can't say enough about those guys.
No, it's fun to talk about them, but there is a few that we have not mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and mention those pretty quick. I say pretty quick. I mean, go ahead, as in before we say something else.
Right. So the three that wasn't mentioned that I feel like should be. One of them is close to me. It's Sentimental. They haven't really done a whole lot yet, but they will. So keep an eye and ear out for them. Shadow Moses.
Yes, that's the one I was hoping you would mention.
Which is my brother's band.
Really?
Very talented band.
very talented band. Not just him. The lead singer Wesley Frazier. I'm not going to start going into everybody's names because
John Wesley.
Yeah,
I call him that because I know him.
yeah.
Alan, I remember listening to Aaron's stuff when we were working at this hotel back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Aaron is very talented, dude. I really hope he.
I'm proud of him, man. He's like me when it comes to starting out. Dad only taught us 3 chords. I can't play guitar unless I know what the chords are. I have to look up guitarchords.com or whatever it was called. Ultimate Guitar. But Aaron started playing by ear. And that little sucker, he plays guitar, he plays drums, he plays bass, he plays banjo, mandolin, he bought a harmonica.
Dude, if I remember,
it used to make me sick because I would be in my room just listening. And this is another real quick segue into what Kevin was talking about with influence and everything. That same night that I spoke to Chris at the Spillway about Dave Grohl and Wiz Khalifa, Aaron, I started talking to him about Aaron, and he knows of him. You know, he hears the rumblings, I guess. Not a whole lot, but I started to tell him he took back after Chris a lot. There is the original documentary, a mini documentary that was about Blackstone Cherry that hit YouTube. They go back to their school, or to Chris's school, or Chris and John Fred's in Edmonton. And Chris was talking about how, or at least within the family, we know that Chris didn't get his license until a certain age. Like that was not on his mind when he turned 16. When Aaron turned 16, Aaron didn't have his permit either for a while, for a very long time. Aaron just kept wanting to buy guitars. He could care less about a car. And so my dad is like, hey, you're going to have to worry about getting a vehicle because you think you're going to be able to be in a band, but you're not going to have a car. You're just worried about these guitars. And Aaron's like, well, Chris did it. And I told Chris that, and he busted a gut. He's like, true. And what did Dad's? You know what Dad's response was?
What?
He walked out of the room.
He walked out of the room.
He didn't.
That's amazing.
He didn't know what to say. So yeah, it was really cool. So anyway, check Shadow Moses.
Yeah, check out Shadow Moses.
Go ahead, Tiny.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I know that Aaron is talented. I've seen videos that you posted, that he's posted. Amazing musician.
Yeah, I'm proud of him. That Shadow Moses, man, they're, and I love the name too because I'm a big Metal Gear Solid fan.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned on the Resident Evil episode, it's my favorite game ever. And actually, their rhythm guitarist, he came up with a name for it. So look out for them soon, especially once this Corona deal is out of the way.
Yep.
Another one, Andy and the Rockers.
I've never heard of them.
Oh, God. Wow, yeah, no, they're amazing, dude.
Tony and Andrea Tannero, husband and wife. They also have another group called Toad Strangler. But Andy and the Rockers, man, he used to play for Joe DiMessina.
Oh, cool.
Back in the day, yeah. Tony, man, I mean, he's self-taught too. You know, he plays by ear, but he was also like classically trained. Like this sucker went to school.
Wow.
Like legit. He's amazing. He's amazing. So Andy and the Rockers, check them out. Andrea was actually featured, I don't know if you'd say featured, but she's listed on 1 or 2 Blackstone Cherry albums. And I believe one of the songs that she was a part of was War, their cover of War.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure it was the Kentucky album, yeah.
Nice.
And I think that was the song. But anyway, Andy and the Rockers, look them up. They're not hard to find online. And then I cannot believe, with the subject of nostalgia and bands, nobody mentioned the brothers.
Mention what?
The Wolf Brothers.
Oh,
The Wolf Brothers.
The Wolf Brothers, man. They used to come to school all the time.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I believe they live in Louisville. And then Lexington, according to their website anyway, Lexington, Kentucky booking agency served as a home base for them. And they traveled in Kentucky and the Midwest, also in Alaska, the Caribbean, Florida, and New York. So they've been around too. So the Wolf Brothers, man, and as far as I know, they're still going at it. So gotta give them props. They were fun. They'd come to the school and they'd have their albums for sale. And I know Rodney, one of their members, he would get on all fours and like pretend to bite another member, like in the calf muscle and stuff. But yeah, fantastic. Look them up too.
Awesome.
And that's all I had.
If I was going to have to say another band that didn't get mentioned, there was a band called Pilot, who also went to school with one of the guys from Cody Meek.
Yeah, he was Cody Meek. He was also in Plain Jane.
He was also in Outhouse Etiquette, which we didn't mention either.
Man got around.
Cody is an amazing musician. He did a lot of stuff on 105.3 and 103.7 The Point, 105.3, or I'm sorry, 103.7 The Edge and 105.3 The Point. He was a DJ. He did a lot of stuff there. He had a big hand in local.
Uh-oh. Tiny, did we lose you?
Nope, I'm still here.
Okay, cool.
No, he was done. He muted himself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was done. Yeah. No, I was just Cody Meek. Cody, well done. You were a hell of a bass player, and loved your stuff in Outhouse Etiquette.
That's right. I just want to say real quick for Pilot, if you want to check out, they've got some stuff online again. Check them out. Really good band. A little heavier than with a lot of the bands we were talking about tonight, but definitely check them out. We're at 2 hours and 21 minutes, so let's go ahead and bring this awesome episode to a close.
Amazing.
This was fun. This was so fun.
Yeah. Dude.
Real quickly, here is the nostalgic item of the week. I am sending it to you right now. It is sending. Let me know if you remember this.
Oh my God! Really?
I actually don't know that one.
You don't know Mac and Me?
Oh my God, dude! No, Alan is a little bit younger than we are, dude. So.
Well,
that doesn't mean anything.
I brought this up because for two reasons. One, for more than a couple reasons. One, Mac and Me is just a straight up 80s movie, kids sci-fi movie about an alien that gets stranded on Earth and at a camp, and he has shenanigans with some of the kids there. Now, it's the reason I bring that up is because one, it was a huge hit back then. It brings back a lot of happy memories of watching it. It was on back in the 90s. It was on just about every single Saturday afternoon on one channel or the other. But the reason I bring this up, it is actually if we're doing one actor to another or something like that. What did you call it? 7 degrees of separation or whatever that's called.
Yeah.
This is actually tied to Paul Rudd. How? Paul Rudd, who just had a birthday here recently. Happy birthday, Mr. Paul Rudd, 51 years old.
Happy birthday.
Doesn't look a day past 30.
Nope, never.
And the reason I bring that up is because every interview he ever does on a show, whether it's the Tonight Show, I mean, you name it. Anytime he is ever on, when he is getting ready to talk about a movie that he's in, even the Avengers, Ant-Man, and he's going to show a clip from it. This is the clip that he brings is from this movie. That's
That's
only.
all
It's a
good.
running gag he's been doing for 20 years. He only brings a clip from this movie about this handicapped kid whose wheelchair at the camp goes out of control down a hill and off a cliff, and this alien just sticks its head up out, pops its head up out of nowhere, like ooh, and it's just
That's
a running gag.
fantastic.
But that's why I wanted to bring
Yeah.
that up.
Amazing.
He's done it
Yeah.
to Conan so many times.
Oh yeah, he's like, why do you do this to me? You
Right,
promised
yeah,
you
I
wouldn't
do.
bring that anymore.
And now that I'm looking it up, I do vaguely remember it.
Yeah.
But it was more or less like Orion's answer to E.T.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I would think.
Yeah.
2
So,
years delayed, but yeah.
So just a shameless plug that won't get me any, but I have been watching Alton Brown's Quarantine Kitchen.
Which is on the Science Channel.
It's on Science Channel. It's also on YouTube. Go to Alton Brown's YouTube website.
Yes.
However, just saying, he was asking today where everybody was from, and I just happened to throw out Omicron Persei. And I don't know if anybody knows that
Mm-hmm.
quote. He did not respond to it, by the way. So
That's a
don't
shame.
feel. Yeah, I just threw it out there because I'm a geek. But yeah, go watch Alton Brown
Oh yeah.
because he's funny.
All right. Well, I guess that's going to do that for us this week. Of course, once again, we have social media, Deadpan Studio 18 on Facebook and Twitter, as well as SOKy Nostalgia, or at SOKy Nostalgia. You can also reach us at SOKyNostalgia@gmail.com, deadpanstudio18@gmail.com, our website, deadpan-studio.com. You can also find us on the Podbean app, where that's one of the places we stream, is deadpanstudio.podbean.com, as well as streaming on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, and Spotify. Email me. I will say this over and over, and I know it gets annoying, but email me and let me know about it, you bastards.
Please do. Please do.
I'm just kidding. I'd love you. I love the audience that we have.
And I just want to say real quick, like, that was such a spur of the moment thing with Cody and Kevin
Yes.
coming in. It was such short notice, last minute idea, and they delved right into it. I wish Cody could have stuck around longer, but we'll have him back. And Kevin, dude, thank you very much
Yes.
for the insight on all that stuff.
Yes.
It was fantastic, and we will hear from you again.
Yes, let me say thank you to Cody. Let me thank you to Kevin, Sir Bradley, who had to leave. I
Yep.
appreciate that. Good job.
Oh,
guys.
you appreciate Brad leaving?
No.
I had to get one in there. No,
Also-
we missed him.
Oh, that's all right. Well, like I said, thank you, audience, for being with us every single week. Thank you, Sir Bradley, even though you had to leave early. Thank you for your input. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. I mean, this has just been a really fun show. So thank you, Cody. I didn't want to forget to say your name. I am so sorry. It's starting to run long, so I'm getting a little tired, even though my
Yeah, I
monster's
would
running
say-
out. But
I'd
anyway,
say 2 hours and 30 minutes will do it.
yeah, that's right.
Yep, absolutely.
That's right. All right. Well, with that, thank you from all of us here at Deadpan Studio Podcast for SOKy Nostalgia. I am the Matt.
Tiny?
Again with the question. Alan?
Thank you, guys. We'll check y'all later. See ya.
Give me